Hi, this will serve as a review for your causes or effects essay. What I'm asking for here are 3 body paragraphs that are properly done in paragraph form and have the APA research weaved within it, and you end up with just the 3 body paragraphs. One of the main issues that you have first is selecting a topic. We've brainstormed a few topics. Once you have a topic, you then need to brainstorm the causes or effects in a broad-based way. This is the first place where students mess up, because you pick a topic like homelessness or gangs, and then you want to launch into the history of gangs, or if it's cloning, you want to define cloning, you want to give your opinion about cloning, and basically you've already blown the whole paper, because you need causes or effects, and only causes or effects. So you have to stop and think of your topic. What is a cause or an effect of that topic? And so you're doing either one, and then we've started with 3 causes or 3 effects. So you're doing or. So if you have a topic, for example, of, down here I'll show you one, of homelessness, I'm then looking for just causes or effects of homelessness. So this student has that there are some physical causes of homelessness, there are some economic causes, and there are mental illness causes, and at this point they've also brainstormed and thought maybe there are weather-related causes for homelessness. This student already is thinking then in terms of what are some ways that these broad-based causes can be elaborated. So at this point, think of your topic and think, do I have a cause or an effect? I can't emphasize that enough, because most of the drafts that I'm getting in blow that at one point or another. Some of you are doing 1 or 2 causes, 1 or 2 effects, and then you just don't know what else to do. So again, I'm getting paragraphs that are rambling, or paragraphs that are definitions, or paragraphs that are some kind of explanation or history. Those won't cut it. Every paragraph is a cause or an effect. And once you have that major cause, you subdivide. I've given the example in class as well, is that sometimes you get too narrow. Let's say this student chose for a first cause PTSD. Well, that's fine. It is a cause. Maybe the second cause they picked bipolar, and the third cause they picked personality disorder or schizophrenia or something like that. That's fine, as long as that person knows that these 3 causes, all relating to mental illness, each have to be developed into a full paragraph. So the question is when you get narrow, do you still have enough information to cover maybe 3/4 of a page? Is there enough information in your brain and in the research to do that? My advice is to get it as broad as possible on a project like this, so that you can go several different directions. These causes or effects can change as the project moves on. As you start researching, you might decide that you're going to throw one of these out. That's fine. You might want to add one. That's fine. For example, as she goes through, maybe she decides that she doesn't want to deal with weather at all, or maybe that becomes a very important issue in homelessness, and she chooses to do that one instead of some of these others. So that is all up to you as you research, as you adjust your outline. But if you don't start with an outline, and you don't have clearly in your mind, at least at first, what are these 3 causes or these 3 effects, you don't know what article to even look at. So, and then you don't know, when you pick an article, what information you need, because the information you need all backs up and proves or elaborates the issue that you mention in your main points. So as you pick up an article, you're looking for information that just backs up your outline, or if you see a pattern emerging, you can change your outline to incorporate that. But you've got to know where that information in that article is going to fit in your paragraphing. Okay, so that is brainstorming in the broad-based ways and outlining the causes or effects with the elaboration points. Each of these points then become your topic sentence. When I read your paragraphs, I need to be very sure that I can see clearly what it is your first cause is, what is your first effect, what's your second effect. Your topic sentence, your first sentence of that paragraph needs to hit me with that key word. You need to, even for the sake of being very elementary, at this point you need to very clearly say, one of the causes is mental illness, and then elaborate on that. Another cause besides mental illness is the weather. And you specifically say what that cause or effect is. That also will remind you not to be putting points of history or definition or things that do not fit in with this cause-effect model. So then you start drafting and you start weaving in information from your research. So as you draft, for example, this student again, she can then start writing her paragraph on the physical the physical causes of homelessness. She knows some of these pieces of information in her own mind. She could then write that down, because when you're writing at that point, it's just totally what you know, why you thought this was the case. Paragraphing is a matter of what you say and then what they say as you look at the research. So she needs to then compose her paragraphs with the information that she knows. So then she writes out her paragraphs in this fashion. Okay? So she starts putting the information that she knows. Okay? Then you start looking at the research. You're using only virtual library and only opposing viewpoints. So at the point where you're looking on Google and you're running search engines, you are not doing this project at all. Okay? You've got to get into virtual library, you've got to get into opposing viewpoints, and you're looking for the minimum of 2 articles that have material that you can paraphrase and add that material into your paragraphs. When you decide you're going to steal those ideas, the facts, the statistics, all of that expert opinion in your paragraph, stop and make the reference page entry. I've worked with students on this project. We get to that point where I'm looking at their project and they're saying, okay, here's what I have stolen. I've put it in red. Here's what I have in my own. And they do not have where they got this information from. They do not put the information in the parentheses. They do not have a reference page that they've done at all. They say, well, I could find it again. No, you can't. Okay? When you pull the article and you decide, I'm going to use this article, immediately make that reference page entry. Then make this information in the parentheses properly, like APA would indicate for you to do. In this case, if this is a title, I'm seeing that this needs a correction. This then would have to have the quotation marks around the title. If it is an author, you don't need those quotation marks. This is the minimum of what the APA internal documentation citation looks like, is the title and the year, or the author and the year, and this year is the year that they give to you in the reference entry, like this one would be March 30th. Okay, we would just on this reference just put this author's last name, and then we would put 2010. If you don't have one of these indications of when it took place, you then go to the current date that you pulled the information from. Okay, and there's more information that I've given in class about that. But when you do decide you're going to steal ideas from that article, you're going to use some information from that article to back up what you've written, type it in red. That indicates that this is now stolen information that will remind you that you need to have a citation. You've got to put that author's last name, the year that the information was pulled, and the period goes outside. Okay. If you don't have the author's last name, then you put the title, the year of that information, and the period goes on the outside. Oops. Some of you may have caught that. I need that second quotation mark. That is the basics of it, and I have other information that gives you some more detail about how that's done. And you have a reference page entry. Okay? So you use that article to back up what you've said. It starts filling in. It could even repeat what you've said. If you say that homelessness is caused by PTSD, you elaborate in your own words about that. You find an expert that says the same thing. You elaborate on what they said. You find another article, another expert that says the same thing. That's fine. You just keep elaborating and giving as much expert information, some facts, statistics, experts on that same point. That's elaboration. Okay? You're using proper APA formatting for any of that paraphrasing, like we're mentioning here. And if you direct quote, if you take something word for word, that whole quote, you have information of your own, you lead in, you say according to the experts, and then you have the word for word copy paste that you've done, then you still have that information in the parentheses. Okay? But the point with the direct quotes is that you can't just slap them in this part. You have to lead into it. It becomes part of one of your sentences. And you rarely direct quote. For the most part, you could do this entire project with paraphrasing. Then you need to proofread your paragraphs. The things that I'm looking for again are 3 paragraphs that are definitely causes or effects. You have elaboration under each of those paragraphs. Those paragraphs have enough elaboration. Some of you are trying to pin me down on exactly how many sentences, exactly how many lines, etc. Roughly, I'd want you to shoot for 3/4 of a page for each paragraph. And that is rough. Can it be done shorter? Possibly. Could it be done longer? Maybe. Sometimes you get too short or too long. I only will know when I read it. And you should start getting a feel for this. Have I elaborated the points enough? What are your points? If you have 3/4 of a page, you should be able to say, and this is my A, this is my B, this is my C, here's my information from my research, here's my information from my own brain, and it's here in this paragraph. Okay? If you can't do that, if you just rambled, if someone else can't pick up your paragraph and outline it for you, you're doing something wrong. So you have those 3 paragraphs of causes or effects. You've elaborated your ideas on your own. You've elaborated it with at least the 2 articles. You've incorporated that. You have read information within the drafts, because that's clearly indicating to me that this is where you took that information, as opposed to saying what you say. This is more of what they say in the articles. And you've done the APA format correctly within the bodies, within the reference page, within the heading, etc. And let's see, this particular paper is not absolutely perfect here. We'll pick on Javon, but we do have the APA heading, we do have the page number with the title here, and we do have 3 body paragraphs. Okay, what I'd be looking for is if this is exactly causes, and I can see in some regards that it's not all causes as I'm looking at this. But let's, so barring the content here, let's look at a few places. For example, he has a direct quote here. This would need a lead-in. First off, this should be in red, because it's obvious stolen material. And there needs to be information here, like according to, he could even have put according to the Supreme Court. And then have that information. Okay, this period goes outside only. You don't need to have it double. And then I'd look for this particular source on the reference page, and it's here. Okay? So not looking at the content here as far as these being straight causes, because what I'm looking for is if it's minimum wage, what are the effects of minimum wage? What are the causes of minimum wage? I would think that this would be effects. And when I look at this first sentence here, I don't see specifically that it is referring to a specific effect of minimum wage. Okay? I don't see one here, and I don't see it here. Okay? So that's the problem with this particular paper. From the beginning, I don't see clear effects of minimum wage. Okay? But then there's the reference page. Again, there's some issues with this. You have to have the hanging references. Remember, you go up to line spacing options, and you hit hanging, and that moves the second and third lines in. So it's the button that has the one arrow pointing up and one arrow pointing down. Line spacing options. Under special, you hit hanging, and that is then a correct APA reference. And since these both came from opposing viewpoints, those are proper sources, and it meets the idea of 2 minimum. Okay? So we could look at that paper and see what the issues are with that one. Let's look at another start of one here. We're picking on Ricardo. We're looking for causes or effects of identity theft. We could talk about then, let's jump here, that technology is one of the causes for it, that it's brought about more identity theft. And you can see then there's information here that he's put in red saying that he has gotten this from somewhere, but I don't see where. There's no, unless all of it possibly came from this. And it wouldn't be opposing viewpoints in context. What specific article did this come from? So did this come from Blascal, or did it come from this one or this one? I don't know. Because it has to be whatever is the first part of this information here. The author's name, the title of the article, something, because there's 5 billion things in opposing viewpoints. Which specific opposing viewpoint? So that's an issue with this start of an essay. But what I like that he's done here is he's divided it into categories and subcategories very clearly, indicating that there are some places here that are backing up the information that he has on his outline. So that's more information that's here than backing these points up. So this person now needs to elaborate more, and you could do all of this like we just saw in that last outline in an outline form and then just convert it to paragraph form. Okay? But those are the areas that I'm looking for. Let me see if I have any more here. No, that's okay. This one's not bad. This is another student. There's no page number here. There would need to be. There's the references page, properly indented. That's great. Here's the 2 problems with this. Do you see? This is not virtual library. Okay? So these references don't count. Okay? But then as the paragraphs go, we're looking for the causes or effects, it looks like, on identity theft. We have financial problems, we have credit report problems, and we have legal problems. So those in the first sentences are very clear that those are the topic sentences. So then I'm just looking for the information that backs that up. So if we have legal problems, then I'm looking for sentence after sentence that backs up the idea of legal problems. But as we could see in this essay, there's no information that has come from outside sources. There's nothing in red, there's nothing paraphrased, there's no internal citations at all, and of course there's no information from sources that are from virtual library. So that's the problem with this essay. Okay, besides, like I said, this page number that's up here. So those are a few essays that I've pulled boldly from some students that you could look at and say, am I making that same mistake? Okay, so at that point, that concludes at least this review of what you should be working with as your causes or effects essays. Best thing is to have me review the essay beforehand, before you post it, so that I can make sure. Another way is to grab a buddy and say, okay, here are my 3 paragraphs. Have them tell you very clearly from your topic sentences what are your 3 causes or your 3 effects. Have them go through your paragraph and say, okay, here's your A, here's your B, here's your C. If they can do what I call reverse outlining your paragraph, or you can reverse outline your paragraph, then you have a properly done paragraph. And then it's just a matter of checking your references and your APA formatting, and then you're complete. Okay, so let me know if you have any further questions on this.